Perfect. All right. As we're getting closer to Bangladesh's parliamentary election next month, election discussions and reporting are heating up. Welcome on DC to Dhaka, a new episode from Washington, DC. I'm Nicolette de Vigar. Elections always seem to look different when seen from a distance. So we asked those with a foot in the United States and in Bangladesh and a foot in supporting different parties and different opinions to see what they're thinking. So let's hear an engaging discussion on the upcoming election from afar. So we're discussing today with Dr. Nuran Nabi. He's a writer, a freedom fighter, scientist, and a social worker, awarded with Bangladesh's second highest national award, the Ekushi Padak Award in 2020, and I hope I did pronounce this right, for his outstanding contribution to the Liberation War. He also received the Washington, D.C. Book Fair Award in 2018, and he's a councilman of Plainsboro Township in New Jersey here in the United States. Also joining us is Radwan Chowdhury, a board member of the Montgomery County Citizen Advisory Board here in Maryland in the DC area. He's a political activist, community organizer, and entrepreneur. And we have Hafiz Khan, the president DC of PNP. Thanks so much, gentlemen, for joining us. We have 30 minutes. Let's make it count. First question, and that I'm going to go in order. So what is your first thought when thinking about the upcoming elections in Bangladesh? I'm going to call on Mr. Khan first because I spoke already with the two gentlemen before. So you get the first step.
Me? Yes, actually, we are looking for a free, fair election, which is not happening in Bangladesh at this moment. This is a one-party show election is going on, which is unexpected. We don't want it. We want most participate. All the political parties should involve with this free, fair election. And basically, the opposition who are not participating in this election, they're asking only the fair election. They're not asking for anything else. So we are from Washington, D.C. and all other places. As a Bangladesh American, we also agree with that. And unfortunately, it's not happening at this moment. That's our bad luck, and we don't expect that. And we have time. The government of Bangladesh should realize that. And they will bring, opposition. A lot of people should participate in the election as independent government. I mean, when the election is happening, it should be the caretaker or someone who are not involved or participating in election. So that's the people are fighting. That's all.
So your first thought is free elections.
Yeah, it's just like one party, set up. It's not election. You can say selection.
Okay, let's move on and see what the others. First thought, don't have to respond yet. First thought when you think about the Bangladesh election, Mr. Chowdhury.
Thank you, Nicolette. Thank you for having us, and thank you to all the viewers. So the election, like Mr. Khan says, as a citizen of both sides of the aisle in the United States, I hold the dual citizenship as well as Bangladesh, as I was born, and the son, nephew, and a grandson of the freedom fighter like Nuran uncle. The country has gone through a lot. We went through 1952 and then 1971 liberation for freedom of our country. So our ancestors gave their life, gave their blood to have a freedom, to have the livelihood of our generations. So from the far, sitting here in the United States, we expect to have a fair election. I do not know. I don't have enough knowledge to speak effectively as to whether election going to be fair and free. I'm hoping that it will be. I know there is a lot of international pressure, including the United States and the European country and the allies of the United States. There is a tremendous amount of diplomatic and political pressure to have a free and fair election. And the only thing we can hope and say that, it will be fair and free election on January 7th, unless the date has changed. As of yet, that is the date. And I'm hopeful that our ancestors didn't give their life for nothing. And I know there is a political difference of opinions. I don't on a hold one way or the other. What I do expect as a citizen, and for my friends and family who are in the state in Bangladesh, to have a fair election. Ordinary citizen, they don't really expect anything from their political people, whether it's Awami League or BNP or whomever. Only thing they want is, their day-to-day life is fair and easy. The product, the consumer products are available to them and is in fairly, effectively, low cost, and just their safety of the citizens, and that's the only thing they hope. And once the government can secure that, irrespective of which government cause, the average general public, general citizens, really don't have a lot of issues with the political party. So again, I hope, and I'm still hopeful, that the election will be fair, election will be free from all the one party chaos, irrespective who comes in the at the end. But I know there is a tremendous amount of political and diplomatic pressure to have a fair election, and I'm hoping that will be.
Okay, but you said you're expecting a fair election, but then what I heard is what your thoughts are in terms of the election coming up, going forward for the population. That's mainly abundance, economic prosperity, and safety.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Dr. Noor, your take on that. What is your first thought?
Thank you for inviting me. As you know, I'm a freedom fighter of Bangladesh Liberation War. I went to the Liberation War at the call of founding father Sheikh Mujibur Rahman to establish 4 principles. And 2 of them was democracy and secular society. So any election, any party, those who will participate to govern and win the election and govern the country, they must abide by these 2 principles. So my expectation in Bangladesh in coming election, those political party, those individual, those who will support the secularism as well as democracy, I expect that they will win and they will govern the country according to those principles. For those principles, 3 million people sacrificed their lives, hundreds of thousands, to all of 200 to 400,000 women lost their lives. 1 million people, they had to take shelter in India in a refugee to protect their life, and one of those family was my wife's family. So I am directly involved the suffering, sacrifice, how Bangladeshi people did for their liberation. And after more than 50 years, if we have to face those 2 fundamental questions, that whether Bangladesh will be a secular country or whether democratic country, is very unfortunate. So my expectation is this coming election, people will participate, all the political party will participate, and this election must conducted by the constitution. You cannot just change constitution and demand some unreasonable, unconstitutional things. So government should be changed through election, general election, and southern common people will participate, and all our all the people of mainly our foreign well-wisher, they want free and fair election. We want free and fair election. The current government, they have been telling all the time that they have they also set up a system, this election commission. They have empowered the election commission. They have improved the system. I can discuss later possibly those, that how a free and fair election could be conducted by the election commission, which is empowered to conduct a free and fair election. So summarize my expectation, the government will change through election. There is no other way to change the government without election. And government is legally and they are politically, they are bound to conduct a free and fair election through the independent election commission.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, first of all, is elections along with the constitution, and then you want to see going forward democracy and secular society, which was what the Liberation War was fought on. That's kind of your take
Yes,
on that.
exactly.
Okay. Before we get more into all of these details of all of what you said, I would like to ask all of you, what would you like Americans to know about the upcoming Bangladeshi elections? Mr. Khan.
Definitely. America is very much involved at this moment in Bangladeshi situation. They already declared visa sanction because of this because of this fair and good election. The reason they are doing, because they already did their homework. And as per Mr. Nirannabi, he's a freedom fighter. Respect him. But my questions to him: why we had freedom fight? Why we became independent? Because of democracy. On 1969, we have election. At that time, the political party was win, but the East Pakistan government doesn't give their representative whatever we win. That's the reason they fight for it, the democracy. And the same thing were happening now. There is a no democracy, one party show. The whole political system became Awami League people. They became, the justice department is demolished. They all are, if you see the justice, whoever in the Supreme Court now, I can mention a couple of people. They directly, they mention themselves as a political commitment for the government. If you check the ex chief justice who exiled in here, as per his statement, here he was in present government appointed chief justice. He became exiled because when he speak up about this kind of corruption or something kind of injustice things, the government put him out from the country. And as per his statement, all the judicial system has been broken, and anything judgment coming from the justice department is given by the prime minister or his office. And if you go to the police department, all the senior police and the regular police are the political appointed. Justice, judicial, education, all are broken in Bangladesh. If really you want what the opposition people are looking for, the America is looking exactly same thing, the UN looking exactly same thing. If you see the American State Department and the Blinken and all other people, why they make the visa sanction? Because of they want free and fair election. They are not supporting any specific political party over there. And UN asking same thing, even though the European Parliament here, they also become the same thing, because the present government claiming they did big development. So why they're afraid for the fair election? And if you're talking about the constitution, it's totally made by their own like political book.
Okay, but I have to ask you something now. You're basically referring to free fair election, which is more process. I have not heard yet from you in terms of what you expect for the country going forward. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Mr. Khan, please?
Definitely, the basic.
Because free election is just the beginning, and that's sort of an observation of a statement of where you're standing now. So it's short term. But what's the long-term vision?
If your political system is not fair, if the democracy is not working, there is nothing you think about future.
How would you measure democracy, though? Just to clarify, how would you measure democracy if, for example, prosperity, economic development has been really very well for Bangladesh?
Yeah, that's fine. Let me give you the example. For an example, we have a big bridge has been built up in Bangladesh, which is called Padda Bridge. It's a historical bridge, right? It has to be spent like 40 billion or whatever million. Whatever is cost, they are spending 10 times, and they're stealing money 90% and giving the all people's head of the people will pay for their loan. If you, what I'm saying, you don't have to believe on my mouth. If you go to the Indian in infrastructure, all other countries infrastructure, how much they're spending their development, and if you equivalent the same thing to the Bangladesh, you'll see the differences. And the all Bangladesh bank has been robbed by these government people. 18 billion has been, even though we thought about it, the prime minister's son has been maybe there, he's under observation in this country's people about the money laundering. We guess, we don't know, because how we know? Because the prime minister, when he came, she was saying that, yeah, if they kick out my son, he will go back Bangladesh, they will take my everything, my son. Why she said that? Nobody asked the question.
Okay, but basically, just to sum it up, this is a long explanation in terms of saying from your point of view what you see wrong, but it still has really caught on more like in terms of what the future is. But we get back to that. I want to move on here. What are your reactions to Mr. Khan, Mr. Chowdhury? I start with you, and then please also, what would you want Americans to know about the Bangladeshi elections?
Well, let me answer your first question second. Let me respond to Mr. Khan with all the respect. I want one thing. Bangladesh has acknowledged, or the world has acknowledged, including the United Nations and the American, the Union continent, has a 7% GDP, is the highest growth ever in 50 plus years, the birth of Bangladesh since the 1971 independence. I aligned with Dr. Novi uncle because my father, my grandfather, and my uncle are all three of them are freedom fighter. They fought alongside with the late President Ziaur Rahman under his command. Though my uncle is Awami League supporter, but they all fought with the late President Ziaur Rahman in the hill tracts of Chittagong, where I'm from. Mm-hmm. So Bangladesh has received and acknowledged by the world has the highest GDP in Southeast Asia. It just didn't happen because an incident. It happened because of the progress made. And of course, the progress was made in two parts, right? It's a public and the government partnership. So the private and the government partnership, the Bangladesh has achieved that GDP. And it's acknowledged by the world and the World Economic Forum as well. So that's an achievement. Yes, there are corruption, but you cannot say the corruption is in one fold, right? Corruption happens everywhere in the whole 294 countries of the world. Corruption happens. The levels of corruption may be different. So yes, there are corruptions, but the corruption levels might be different. And again, I don't see the internal part of it, so I can effectively say who is at fault. But there are foul players and there are corruptions, of course. For the breeze, probably the most controversial development of Bangladesh since its birth of 1971. But you must still acknowledge that made a huge communication progress from the south to the north of Bangladesh. And yes, we might be in debt to the many people, including the World Economic, including the World Bank and the private sector. But the loan will be paid off as every other country borrow money from from the IMF and the World Bank. So I'm not so concerned about how much loan Bangladesh had. What I'm concerned about, how after election the government will encounter the opposition party and everything. So again, my hope with the pressure from the international communities and the United Nations to have a fair and free election. Again, there will always be controversy. There will always be opposition. There will always be, regardless how it turns out to be. But within that context, if we can have a somewhat decent election, if we can have some opposition people who comes to the power to oppose their good and bad, and have that political dialogue and have open-minded, I think it's still a progress. Yes, country is still going through a lot of turmoil. Yes, country is still progressing, but you cannot undermine the highest GDP growth in the entire Southeast Asia. The surplus is the India and the other countries in the Southeast Asia. So that's a huge progress. And yes, there are still need to be progress. There are electricity shortage, but the government is working through that. There are many power plant in proposal. I understand there are some on hold, including the one Russia put it on hold because of the controversy of the Bangladesh and the United States and the Russian over Ukraine war. But there are many other private sector who's put forward their proposal, their plans to improve the power sector. So the shortage of electricity, I think, is much improved, but there are still place to improve. And the other thing, like I said in my opening statement, whatever citizens ask for from their government, specifically I'm talking about in Bangladesh, is are they safe to go out? Are they alive or safe? Are they free to walk and free to talk, free to do? Yes, there are controversy. I'm not going to say that the government is always be subject to controversy, regardless where you go. So the Prime Minister, Honorable Sheikh Hasina, is also a victim of that, whether it's her fault or not, but she is a victim of that controversy. It might be some foul play from the government, but and the other part is, do I have enough supplies, my daily needs, like do I have enough rice to eat, do I have enough oil, beans, vegetables, and so forth, day to day needs the people to feed their family. Are those costs are minimized, are those available to eat? And there are some manipulation, we all know that they by those people who controls those supplies, but hopefully those are the areas that government will address, regardless who comes in the power after January 7th. Hopefully they will address those issues. Hopefully the average people will be able to, political controversy is a handful, but average 17 million, 170 millions of the country's people, if 70% of those people are satisfied and they says, okay, we have what we need to survive our day to day. I want to feed my family and I have a roof over head and I'm free to walk on the street without, being harassed or taken away by somebody. Then yes, we made a progress.
Okay. Dr. Nabi, I'm going to move on to you. You've been so quiet here the whole time. So you
It's
take,
okay.
and then,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you. So I will answer your question first, that what is expectation from American people to Bangladesh, especially in coming election.
Yeah, what would you like? No. What would you like Americans to know about the Bangladesh?
Okay. So I'll rephrase it. So I think we have more than 50 years of friendship between the US and Bangladesh. Though initially we have some problem, that during the liberation war, Nixon and Kissinger opposed our liberation war. But after the war, US government recognized the country and puts billions of US aid in Bangladesh for different developmental project and also in education in many fields. So friendship between these two countries making progress. So what we want to know, American people, American government, is that Bangladesh is making progress in terms of all economic index, as some of them Mr. Chaudhary mentioned. I don't want to repeat, but in current society, especially in democratic society, that there is no place for violence. Violence and democracy cannot go together. And Bangladesh government, especially under the leadership of Sheikh Hasina, she has been trying to control the violence, contain the violence in a manageable position. Because, as Arif mentioned, Mr. Chaudhary mentioned, that there are 17 attempts on the life of Sheikh Hasina, including a grenade attack on her life in a public meeting on August 21st, a couple of years back. So these grenades are used in the war, and that grenade was used by the then under the government of Khaleda Zia BNP government. 21st August, about 23 people were killed, more than 200 people were injured, and then when the caretaker government came to power, they make the trial, and this leader of BNP, Mr. Tariqur Rahman, was convicted for life, I guess. I am not exactly, and many other government officials, they said that yes, government is involved. So there was 17 attempts on her own life, as well as there was a grenade attack in all the district in 600 places in one day simultaneously. Grenade were attacked, including 2 judges were killed. So in this way, there was a violence activity, terrorism during BNP regime. And Sheikh Hasina, when came to power, she controlled those. And there was one shipment of arms and ammunition by anti-Indian group, and a minister, minister of Jamaat Islam under the chief, Prime Minister Khaleda Zia. He was involved. He was convicted for that smuggling of arms and ammunition for anti-Indian activities across the border. So there are many examples that there was a violence, there was a terrorism, and Sheikh Hasina's government controlled this, contained this. Now people are almost, there's organized terrorism free from Bangladesh. And in just 2 days before, the State Department in their annual report, they they give terrorism, anti-terrorism report all over the world, including Bangladesh. In Bangladesh section, they mention that Bangladesh government successfully contained the terrorism. They fought against all these terrorist group. Most of them were from outside ISIS and other organizations. So those were gone, and now Bangladesh free from those organized international terrorist group, and their supporters, local supporters also, they were controlled, they were arrested, and there is no such activity. So by controlling this terrorism, it is not only good for Bangladesh, it's good for the regional as well as good for USA, because USA also wants free the society without terrorism. In USA as well as the supporters of USA or friendly countries of USA all over the world. So this government has made a lot of progress, as Mr. Chaudhary mentioned, in economic terms. I have discussed about this anti-terrorism activity, and this law in other words, the police and other organizations, those who are fighting against this terrorist group, terrorism in Bangladesh, they were trained by USA. They mentioned in their report how USA government helped those groups, police and other law enforcing organizations, and they are doing good job in Bangladesh. So we want to share this information not only with the government, all the USA population of USA, that Bangladesh is making good progress working against terrorism, controlling terrorism. And I must mention that, as I mentioned before, that in democracy there is no place for terrorism. So this BNP, they are in the opposition. They have particular different, and which is expected, which is reasonable. They are doing public demonstration. Hundreds and thousands of people used to attend their meeting. That was fine. That is nothing against. That is expected in democratic society. But on October 28, they called a strike, and after that, or in that demonstration, there were burning of buses and setting fire on institutional building, and they set fire on this Chief Justice. These are all documented, and since then they are organizing the demonstration or hartal almost every week, and until now, in last 2 months, about 700 buses were burned. These are public buses, private buses. These are owned by middle class businessmen. So they have destroyed their living, and for your democratic demand, you don't have to restore in violence. You can go to the meeting or a procession or a lot of other democratic way. You can fight for your demand, but burning buses, setting fire on government office, and also on 28th October, they set on fire on the ambulances also. So these are not a democratic activities. So
Okay.
what we want to let American people know, American government know, Bangladesh is making progress in economic condition. Bangladesh is making controlling anti-terrorism. Bangladesh is making trying to do free and fair election, And in this election, 28 political party will attend. And there was an opportunity for opposition to join. And if they are popular and if their demand are justified, people would vote for him. They could bring them in power. But boycotting election is not a democratic process. But politically, you can boycott. But by violence, by terrorism, you cannot say that we will stop the
Okay,
election.
I'm gonna have to interrupt and get everyone moving forward here, because we're really running out of time fast, and I hear a lot of like getting at each other, so to speak, about what is. But I want to shift gear in a very second and actually talk a little bit about also in terms of the vision going forward. You all talk about democracy, you all talk about freedom, although there are different interpretations of it. Now, let's talk about, is actually everyone clear about the various candidates on where they stand in terms of vision? So what are the key aspects of the vision of the various candidates that you would support, and why? And I'm trying not to go back to we talked about the safety, and you made a good point, Dr. Nabi, already. You mentioned the safety and you mentioned the security from your point. And since you gave that long thing, is there something else, and the economy, is there something else in the vision going forward that you support of the current government, or that you see particularly enticing that you haven't mentioned yet? Briefly.
Me?
Yeah, just to follow up, because you just started.
Okay, sure. It's a good point. You know, Bangladesh at the crossroad of political direction. Through this election, Bangladesh can go to democratic, secular, and economic developmental process, or Bangladesh can go into a religious fundamentalist to organization, those who believe in terrorism. And it's not my rhetoric. There is a track record. I can spend a whole night, whole hours to describe that. So at this crossroad, I expect that people will decide who is candidate, who is party will help them to continue this economic development. You will be surprised to know that metro rail is running in the capital of Dhaka, which is not a rich country like USA. So you will be then two big bridges, which will improve the economic condition of the different parts of the country and as a whole nation. So this kind of development, this kind of political system, those who will continue, people will vote for them, and they will bring back them to power, and have a dream. When we are a freedom fighter, we have a dream that there will be a golden Bengal, and golden Bengal you can achieve only through economic development, peaceful society, violence-free society, and where there will be no burning of buses, burning of government property. And
in your mind, Dr. Nabi, this is what the current government stands for, and that's what the vision going forward is. I'm going to pass over to
what I'm saying, that all the voters, they will judge each candidate and each party based on these points. That's who can bring peace, who can bring economic development, who can bring those ideologies, secular democratic society.
Mr. Khan, I'm passing on to you. What is the vision what you find particularly enticing about BNP, for example, for going forward, after having heard all the things what Dr. Nabi said?
You are missing the main point. You are talking about the house without door. You are talking about the house without window. You cannot make the picture whole things if there is no justice system, there is no democracy. We don't even think about it. You can make the development, you can make the future dream, everything can possible if you are on the right track. There is a fundamental issue in Bangladesh. There is nothing, government is not giving any people, they don't care about people. They're selecting people and they are manipulating people and using money, whatever they. For an example, let me tell you something. Do you ever heard the American government impose visa sanction, including Justice Department? Do you mean by that? Do you
Actually,
understand what
I
is mean
don't
by
think,
that?
Adam, I actually, on this one, I'm going to have to interject something, because I think we have enough issues with our own Justice Department that has shown itself to be weaponized actually going forward. So I wouldn't necessarily use that as an example at this point.
Because we are hurting. You know, the opposition people has 100,000 false allegation, and they cannot sleep in the home. They are on the street. They don't have a justice. All the opposition people has been caught and put in jail. How could you say the election? Who gonna? Even the government
All
said,
opposition people is all, I find, okay, I'm going to just make one comment here. All opposition people means all is a very absolute terms. There is no such thing as absolute terms. So can you clarify this a little bit? Give us
yes,
a number.
there is a Bangladesh traditionally system of election last 20-30 years. There is a 30 to 35% people voting Awami League. There is a 30 to 34% voting BNP. Last 5 or 6 election as a result. So BNP contain 30 to 35% people. They are having their mandate by them. Awami League has same, maybe 3 or 4% floating. So if most people doesn't participate the election, who are talking about? For an example, government just mentioned, the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina says there will be no one election. There should be election. If there is no candidate, put dummy candidate. Do you think about it? They're setting example of dummy candidate. They want to show the world that there is a participatory election, which is not true. So
but what's the vision going forward? What is
nothing will be vision if there is no justice system. Nothing. I mean, political. If you're, for an example, I used to be a City University of New York, LaGuardia Community College student government president twice elected in New York. You know, I'm involved with the here student politics too. I see the process. I know how to handle it. So if you are not getting specific point of view, so why then? Okay, let me give you the answer. Why they impose the visa section in America? It's very simple. Why?
Yeah, go ahead.
Why they're imposing? Because they're saying they want free, fair election. They want.
But that would mean that other countries are always right in the assessment, and I'm not sure that's true.
No, that I'm not meaning that other countries. I am meaning they knows what's going on. Not in America. I'm not talking about USA. I'm talking about European Union. I'm talking about, for an example, couple of days back, Australian Parliament, one of the MP bring the resolution to impose Bangladesh election held by the UN. Just a couple of days, 4 or 5 days back. Why they're talking? Forget America. Forget Europe. Why they're talking?
What about the mainstream narrative? How does that figure in?
This
what
is
people hear in the news about
like
things. You always take everything at face value.
No, for an example, do you remember Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi? Do you know North Korean government? Do you know Russian Vladimir Putin? Are you believing the democracy on that country?
I don't think
Bangladesh is went through same situation. If they went through this election, Hasina is existing, it will be North Korea. It will be Russia. No opposition. Whatever they set up as opposition, you just face as a creation of opposition.
Circling back in your vision going forward, I still haven't heard though what BNP stands for.
What do they actually stand for? If there is a free, fair election, if people can elect their own people, definitely we want to move forward. We cannot go back 50 years back. What happened? Freedom fight. I don't even care. I care what will be the GDP. What will be
so how do you think
our income capital?
GDP? Let's talk about GDP. How do you think? So is there?
This is all our bogus. This is all our making the books.
No,
making the books. Why? Okay. What is the result? What is the money reserve in Bangladesh right now? Tell me. How much they have reserve in government? Tell me. Why they are asking money for IMF loan? Why?
Okay, so
Who
are you
asked the
saying
loan
the
for
economy
IMF?
is bad? Am I hearing that you say the economy is bad or unsecure?
100% is our economy is down. I'm
Okay.
telling you, after 2 months,
So,
government cannot pay the people's salary.
but
I'm telling you.
but I'm still trying to gauge what BNP before we move to Mr. Chowdhury. What do they stand for? What is it in the vision
We are
that
stand for
entices you
free,
going
fair.
forward?
Number one, no violence. Who make the violence? Do you know? Let me tell you the story. The government secret agency bought 200 buses, old buses. They are burning and blaming the BNP. This is not, we are not saying, this is our report. It's reporting by the Indian journalist, Chandan Nandi. How they knows that? Who are making violence? The detective police and one of the guy elected from the one district, they are making all this chaos and blaming the opposition. And we are not saying that.
Okay, so
You don't
can
have to
we stay
believe me.
on no?
Go
You
to
say
the
no violence.
journalism.
What else? No violence. What else?
We don't want violence. We want peaceful, free, fair election. Then we can move forward our GDP. We can do, for an example.
Okay, let's leave it at there because I think the GDP moving forward, the GDP without a plan. Okay, this is gonna be.
You have to make a plan. If you make a plan, you make your budget, your home. You making $100. You are spending $2 billion. Where is the money coming from?
Okay, I'm going to move on here to Mr. Chowdhury because I'm not in a discussion here with you. I'm trying to moderate this. I'm just challenging some of the assumptions because they to see where everyone's coming from. So, Mr. Chowdhury, your take on that.
All right, Nicola, thank you so much again. So yes, I disagree with many things with Mr. Khan. Yes, the economy progress is not bogus, and you stated you have nothing to do with the 1971 liberation. I apologize. My father, my grandfather, my uncle, many others like my family sacrificed 325,000 of them. Their life didn't go in vain. Democracy, because of the liberation of 1971, you and I are sitting in the United States. Otherwise, you or me or Nurunubi uncle or 20 million other people in this country wouldn't be in this country or any other 294 countries in the world. So yes, democracy matters. So I apologize because I disagree because my family gave their blood. My nana took a bullet in his his face was gone, and I saw him only like 10 years of my life, but his whole left face was gone because the bullet went through in Pakistan. So their blood, their sacrifices didn't go in vain. Because of their sacrifice, 325,000 of them died, and many others raped and killed and brutally tortured. Their sacrifice, you and I breathing freely, you and I were able to come to this country and many other country people like us. So I disagree with that. And the economic progress, of course, I don't have the validity, right? But I cannot deny the United Nations recognized it. I cannot deny that IMF recognized it. I cannot deny that World Bank recognized it. I cannot deny that Western Union or European Union recognized it. I cannot deny the World Economic Forum recognized that Bangladesh made 7% GDP, the highest in the Southeast Asia. So those are facts. And I'm a science guy. I'm a software engineer. I believe in science. So I believe in numbers. So those are factual. I do not support Army League. I do not support BNP. I do not support anybody. I'm here in the United States. I support Democrat in this country. And now though I have my doubts, but I have my ancestors. I have my family back home. I have my feet in Bangladesh. I do care. I do care because my family gave it blood. So my vision, to answer your question, Nicola, is to have a free and fair election. I'm still hopeful. Yes, there are clouds. Yes, there are international communities' pressure. With those international communities' pressure and the diplomatic pressure, I'm still hopeful there will be a fair and free election. But here are the questions, though. Irrespective who you support, if you are not sitting in the dinner table, you cannot ask for a better plate or if you are not sitting on the decision making table, you cannot say, oh, you made the decision against me. You are not there. So I understand there are differences. BNP has their own opinion, BNP has their own issues, but they need to come to an understanding, because they boycotted last election, they boycotted election before, and they're boycotting this one. I don't think that's the right strategy from the political perspective. Again, I'm not an expert in Bangladesh political arena, but my common sense and the getting involved in this country's politics, you cannot be sitting in the street and trying to know what's going on in your dining table. You have to be there. Then you make your case. Then you argue with them. Then you fight with them politically. Then you fight with them diplomatically, because the world is listening, and the world is open to. I know that for a fact. Any diplomats sitting in Bangladesh, whichever country, whether it's a United States, Russia, England, or European continent, all the ambassadors are there to support both the current sitting prime minister and the opposition party. So if BNP has anything to say and they want to meet with those people, say, okay, these are the irregularities happening in Bangladesh and we want international community to address it, they will, but they are not to be found. So you cannot complain if you're not sitting on a dining table that, oh, I didn't have a dinner plate. Well, dinner plate was there, was serving, but you were missing in action. So that's the other thing. But my hope, my expectation is, irrespective who comes after the January 7th, if election does happen on the January 7th, unless it's postponed, that there will be free and fair election, and the average people will have safety to go out and walk. My mother, my sister, my brother, my family members will be able to freely walk on the street without any reservation, without having any harassment, and they will have a supplies to support their families. And that's the only expectations the average 170 million people has. They don't care about whether it's Amali came in the power or BNP comes in the power. As Nurul Nabi uncle said, democracy is important. Having secularism is important. And the other thing, I will ask the government, if anyone is listening within their administration, whether it's opposition, BNP or the Amali, to have a better education system reform. Our education system is broken, though current sitting education minister is a fine lady, US graduate, but I think there is a lot of work needs to be done. I worked with her, I sat down closely with her and spoke to her about education reform. She had a good vision, but not sure why couldn't be done. And the other thing is the enough power generation. There is a huge shortage of electricity, especially in rural areas. I hope the government will address those issues. And the supply chain needs to be adequate, and the manipulation of supply chain needs to be stopped. And there are only a handful of people, and the whole world pretty much knows who those are, who controls most of the supply chain in the Bangladesh. And hopefully government will address those issues, that these are the very basic needs of people that government can fulfill. So I hope government will issue, and the reform of justice system, to have an independent justice. Yes, there are controversy. And as far as the debt, when Mr. Khan says that US has about $23 trillion debt. Which country doesn't borrow? We borrow money from China every day. Otherwise, our government will shut down 10 years back. So every country in the face of the earth that I know of, 294 of them, borrow monies from one or the other. They are all in debt, and the debt needs to be paid. Of course, in Bangladesh, so far that I know, again, I'm not going to say that there is no corruption. There is, but needs to be contained. But there needs to be, check and balance. But I hope the government will address those issues, that enough adequate supplies of electricity, adequate supplies of, supply chain, and the education reform, and the most importantly, have an independent justice system and the law and order. And I think the country's people will be happy.
So that kind of sounds like it's the crossover between the two. So we're actually way over time. We're 49 minutes.
30 seconds.
But on another note, yes, I will give you one last sentence.
Yes, maybe less than 30 seconds.
I wanted to say, just from the debate itself, you can see.
No, I'm not go back to debate, because I have to spend hours. Just one word. I was really heartened to hear the comments from Mr. Khan that he doesn't care about 1971. As a freedom fighter, I'm really sad and heartened. If I knew that is his attitude, I would not participate in this convention.
I wasn't born, but my father, my grandfather, my
this
uncle.
function. So what I wish, good for Bangladesh, and Bangladesh is making progress. They are giving in right direction. I hope it will be a golden Bengal. It will take time, but it will not happen in one day. Like Mr. Chaudhary's point that electricity short. When this government took power, there was 3,000 megawatt power. Now it's more than 20,000 megawatt power. So it will make time, but it is going in right direction. So anyway, thank you for inviting us. But if I knew that a person will attend and who doesn't care about 71, I will not participate in this.
I understand that, but this is also part of a
Thing
free
to me too.
exchange
If I
and
know
freedom
your
and
guest, I'll
democracy.
think about it, because they are always thinking about backward, not forward. So we
Hang
respect
on.
each
We're
other.
not
That's
going
the
to get into
problem.
No, stop. I
That's
got to
the
reel
problem.
all
The
of
show-
you in right now at this point.
Show is off.
So here's the point. I understand, and I think there's probably were a little bit of miscommunication. Mr.
You
Khan,
didn't
I
mention
think,
how many people there who will be there. You just said join the party.
now I think you were saying that in terms of going forward, what you're trying to say, but it did come across like the past didn't matter. I'm not sure you meant to say that, maybe not, but that's how it did come across.
My
But
family also has a freedom fight, but we don't make that issue bringing and rob the country and doing the same thing. Whatever Pakistani people does, the government doing same thing, exactly same.
okay, but
So
hang
what
on.
is the difference?
You made your point. It's
What is the
it's still you made your point. I appreciate all of you coming on there. I think we've heard quite a spectrum on this. I don't think so much in terms of going into debating of what is. I think the focus should be much more on honoring the past and going into the future. So on that note,
No, we are capitalized
thank you so much for
story and making
Thank you
business.
so much
That's
for
the problem.
participating. Thanks so much for coming
That's
on.
the problem. Nothing else.
Very lively debate talking about freedom and democracy. It's free exchange. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
coming on.
Nicola. Thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
us. I'm
Thank you.
honored.
Bye.
Thank you to all of your viewers, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Mr. Nabi, stay on for a second because you wanted to speak for a little bit, I think. Thanks so much, Mr. Chowdhury, also for
Okay.
coming on.
You
That
need
was
to
good.
take off.
Yes, you can take off. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, Chaudhary stole my many points.
No, you were great. So
I
now-
didn't know.
just
I'm
wanna
kidding.
say
I
that-
want to say this.
I would say if
admire-
he is not here, I would say what he said. So he free of
I
sense
admire
on
his work. I know him, like you said, but I cannot deny that my family gave their blood, and because of their sacrifice, I'm sitting here in enjoying the luxury that I have in this country, and like many others. So you cannot deny your roots. You cannot deny your history. That is your strength. That is my heritage, and I'm so proud of it. And I'm so proud to be a son of a freedom fighter, and a nephew and a grandfather. All my uncle and my nana and my baba all fought under the leadership of Zia Rahman. Political spectrum is different, but he did fought, in the hill trucks. And my father and my uncle and my grandfather was under his command before he was shipped to hill trucks by the order of founding father of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. So thank you so much.
Redwan, I'm used to fight or discuss with facts. Lies and rhetoric, it's the wastage of time. So উনি যা বলছেন all lies and rhetoric.
No, that's very heartening that you don't care about Bangladesh 1970. That's our history. That is our heritage. You and I wouldn't exist if the 1971 didn't take place. You can't deny that 325,000 people died. That's my livelihood. So thank you, Uncle. It was good seeing you.
Good to see you.
Hopefully Washington DC ফোমানাতে দেখা হবে।
দেখা হবে না, বইমেলাতে দেখা হবে। ফোমানাতে আমি আজকাল যাই না, ওই এত ভাগাভাগির জন্য। মানে আগে তো দুটা গ্রুপ ছিল, আমি একটা গ্রুপে ছিলাম, এখন 6টা গ্রুপ। গতবার
আমি
ছয়টা,
আমি আমি যাই না, এই জন্য আমি যাই না।
হ্যাঁ, তো
লাস্ট টাইম আমি আমার বই ওই একে দিয়েছিলাম, ওই নিউ ইয়র্কে
বিশ্বজিৎ
বিশ্বজিৎ
স্যার।
দাকে দিয়েছিলাম। আমি আর যাই না, ওদের ভাই তুমি বইও রাখো পয়সা রাখো, আই ডোন্ট ওয়ান্ট কাম।
তো বই মেলাতে হয়তো দেখা হবে, আমি যাব।
ওকে ওকে
হ্যাঁ,
ওকে,
তো ভালো থেকো, হ্যাঁ ভালো থেকো, ওকে, খোদা হাফেজ।